What if I told you that adding a second, highly skilled human being to your current project team might actually make your final product worse?
Right.
Or, I mean, at the very least, it wouldn't make it any better at all, but it would just drastically slow you down.
Which is wild to think about.
It sounds completely counterintuitive, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've been taught since kindergarten that teamwork makes the dream work. Two heads are better than one, all that stuff.
Yeah, the classic office posters.
Exactly. But the workplace is undergoing this, like, seismic shift right now.
Mm.
And the fundamental laws of how we humans work together are just being rewritten in real time.
It really is a profound structural disruption. I mean, for the past century or so, the baseline assumption of all management science has been that complex problems require human teams.
Right.
And now, well, the empirical data we are seeing suggests that in a rapidly growing number of scenarios, that core assumption is simply no longer true.
It's nuts. So welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to understand how generative AI is, no longer just a fancy calculator.
Or a glorified search engine.
Yeah, or some software tool you occasionally query to fix a typo. It is actively becoming a collaborative partner. Like, it is stepping into the role of an actual teammate.
And in the process, it's completely upending decades of really entrenched management theory.
Totally. So to guide us today, we are looking at this foundational, really paradigm-shifting piece of research. The source material for you today is Jonathan H. Westover's incredibly comprehensive article.
That's a great piece.
It really is. It's titled Beyond the Algorithm: Navigating AI as Collaborative Partner in Knowledge-Intensive Organizations. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the core premise here is that AI is fundamentally changing the who, what, and how of teamwork itself.
Yeah, and we hear a tremendous amount of surface-level hype about AI automating specific tasks, right?
Oh, God.
Like, write a faster email, summarize this PDF, generate a quick line of code. But what this source material reveals is a much deeper structural revelation.
Structural how, exactly?
Yeah. Well, it's about how organizations actually design their talent stacks, how they integrate highly specialized expertise, and perhaps most surprisingly, how they manage the emotional and psychological well-being of their human employees.
Especially in those high-pressure environments, right?
Exactly.
So to really grasp how generative AI is breaking the established rules of teamwork, we first sort of need to understand why those rules were written in the first place.
We have to look at the history.
Right. Think about your own workplace, your own daily calendar. Why do we put people in teams? Why do we have these cross-functional steering committees and massive group projects?
Well, management science basically codifies this into three foundational pillars.
Okay, lay them out for us.
These are the bedrock assumptions that have dictated office architecture, performance reviews, organizational design, really since the Industrial Revolution.
Wow, that long?
Yeah. So the first pillar is performance enhancement. The historical evidence just overwhelmingly demonstrates that teams outperform individuals on complex, multifaceted tasks.
Makes sense.
Right, because when you face a challenge with a dozen moving parts, a team distributes the cognitive load.
Meaning, like, one single human brain simply cannot hold all the variables, all the constraints, and all the historical context at the exact same time without dropping something.
Exactly. You just can't keep it all in your head. And when you distribute that load, you get real-time feedback.
You catch each other's errors faster.
Yes, you challenge blind spots, and the final output is significantly more robust. And that leads directly to the second pillar, which is expertise integration.
Okay, the second pillar.
Theorists refer to this as the knowledge-based view of organizations. As human knowledge has expanded, it has heavily fragmented.
Fragmented meaning specialized.
Right. The source material references this fantastic concept from a researcher named Jones back in 2009. He calls it the burden of knowledge.
I find the burden of knowledge concept so fascinating because, hundreds of years ago, a single Renaissance thinker might actually be able to comprehend the sum total of human scientific knowledge at the time.
Like Da Vinci.
Yeah, exactly. They could be an astronomer, a biologist, and a mathematician all at once. But today, the sheer volume of information means you can spend your entire life studying just one specific protein interaction in a single type of cell.
That is the burden right there. As specialties deepen, our individual scope inevitably narrows.
We know more is more about less and less.
Precisely. No single person can know everything required to launch a modern product. The research and development engineer understands the physical properties of a new microchip, sure.
But they don't know the first thing about consumer price elasticity?
Not at all. And the commercial marketing lead knows exactly what the customer will pay, but couldn't tell you how to actually manufacture the silicon.
So teams act as the essential bridge to combine that fragmented knowledge. R&D must sit at a table with commercial.
They have to.
Yeah.
But anytime you force brilliant people from totally different disciplines to sit at a table together, you introduce friction.
Oh, yeah.
You create massive coordination costs.
I mean, coordination costs are the silent killer of productivity. It's the time spent just finding a meeting time that works for 8 different schedules.
It's impossible.
It really is. It's the effort required to translate engineering jargon into marketing speak, and vice versa. It's navigating interpersonal conflicts, aligning disparate departmental incentives.
Just the sheer logistical overhead of keeping everyone on the same page is staggering.
Which brings me to a big question. If teams are supposedly the scientifically optimal solution to solving complex problems, why do we all collectively groan when we get assigned to a massive cross-functional group project?
We all do it.
Why do we feel a sense of dread looking at a calendar block labeled, synergy alignment kickoff?
Because the math of human communication is brutal. As team size grows, the complexity of managing those relationships doesn't just grow linearly.
It grows exponentially.
Exactly. Adding one more person to a 5-person team doesn't just add one more line of communication. It creates an entire web of new interpersonal dynamics.
Yeah.
It becomes exhausting.
It's like trying to conduct a massive symphony orchestra. The output, the music, is breathtaking, and no single violinist could play all the parts themselves.
Right.
But getting 100 highly opinionated musicians in the same room, getting them perfectly in tune, establishing the tempo, and making sure the brass section doesn't overpower the woodwinds.
The logistical and emotional cost is astronomical.
Yeah. And that brings us to the third pillar of traditional teamwork, which is social engagement.
Right, the human element.
Beyond just getting the work done, teamwork provides a sense of belonging, psychological safety, and what researchers call promotive interaction.
Which is basically the feeling of mutual support. And for decades, organizations essentially accepted the excruciating coordination costs of that massive orchestra because there was absolutely no alternative.
You just had to deal with it.
You had to pay the tax, you couldn't achieve the necessary performance or integrate the required expertise without suffering through the friction.
But, and here is the huge pivot, a recent massive field experiment conducted at Procter & Gamble has provided an alternative that fundamentally shatters this accepted reality.
It really throws a wrench in everything we just talked about.
Let's get into this Procter & Gamble bombshell because the data here is staggering. And just for the listener, this wasn't some tiny lab experiment with 20 college freshmen pretending to run a business.
No, this was real world.
This involved 776 highly skilled professionals at P&G. They were doing authentic, high-stakes new product development. The researchers set this up as a very clean, rigorous experiment to see what happens when you introduce AI into the mix.
They structured it beautifully. They did a 2x2 setup. They tested individuals working entirely alone versus 2-person cross-functional teams.
Okay.
Then they layered generative AI on top of that, creating scenarios where individuals and teams worked with and without the AI assistants.
And most importantly, the resulting product concepts were blindly evaluated by expert human assessors using strict real-world innovation quality metrics.
Right, the assessors had no idea who or what generated the proposals.
They were totally blind. So the baseline findings were exactly what you'd expect from a century of management theory. When working without any AI, the human teams significantly outperformed the humans working alone.
Which tracks with everything we know.
Right. The data showed a noticeable, measurable bump in quality when 2 people collaborated. Teamwork works. The orchestra plays a better song than the soloist.
But the introduction of the AI flipped the script entirely. When individuals working entirely alone were armed with AI assistants, the quality of their work skyrocketed.
Like off the charts.
Yes.
Yeah.
To put the statistical findings into plain English, if the human-only team was turning in a solid B-plus concept, the single individual working alone with an AI turned in an A-plus concept that completely redefined the parameters of the assignment.
It's incredible. And here is the fact that should make every single organizational leader listening pause. When they tested the 2-person human teams equipped with AI, their quality score was statistically indistinguishable from the individual working alone with AI.
Zero difference.
Adding a human teammate to an AI-assisted individual provided basically zero additional performance benefit for this kind of early-stage, complex innovation work.
The AI and the human teammate functioned as substitutes for one another, not complements.
Substitutes, wow.
The individual contributor no longer needed a sounding board, a devil's advocate, or a secondary expert in the room.
Right.
The AI fulfilled all those roles, but without the agonizing coordination costs of aligning schedules or debating semantics.
And they didn't just match the quality, they absolutely crushed the speed and volume metrics.
The efficiency gains were massive.
The individuals working with AI worked 16.4% faster, and they produced solutions that were, on average, over 500 words longer.
Which is a huge increase in depth.
Think about that in the context of a typical 40-hour work week. Working 16% faster means getting back more than half a day every single week, while simultaneously producing much deeper, more comprehensive, and higher quality analysis.
They weren't using the AI to take shortcuts and clock out early.
No, they were using it to dig incredibly deep.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the financial and strategic implications of this are difficult to overstate. Consider the loaded labor costs of massive innovation workshops.
Oh, they're wildly expensive.
Very. The P&G study alone involved nearly 800 professionals dedicating significant working hours. That is millions of dollars in corporate time.
Easily.
If an individual with AI can consistently equal or exceed the output and quality of a multi-person cross-functional team, organizations can essentially double their innovation throughput overnight without hiring a single new employee.
It's mind-blowing.
It grants companies unprecedented strategic flexibility in how they deploy their most expensive resource, which is human talent.
It's like taking someone who has been riding a traditional bicycle their whole life and suddenly handing them an e-bike. You suddenly don't need a second pedaler on a tandem bike to get up a steep hill.
Motor does the heavy lifting.
Exactly. But, and this is crucial, you still desperately need a human to steer the bike, navigate the traffic, and decide the destination.
Right, the AI isn't picking the destination.
And we are seeing this exact phenomenon across every sector of knowledge work, not just consumer goods. The source material pulls in data from software developers using GitHub Copilot, seeing task completion rates jump by nearly 56%.
56% is a huge leap.
Customer support agents seeing 14% productivity gains. Professional writers completing complex tasks 37% faster.
And in every single one of those use cases, the quality metric rose right alongside the speed metric.
Which is the holy grail.
It is. But your analogy of needing someone to steer the bicycle touches on the most vital concern here. Working faster and generating hundreds of extra words is fantastic for productivity, sure, but true innovation requires deeply specialized knowledge.
Which goes back to the burden of knowledge.
Exactly. We established earlier that the burden is immense.
Right, so if you just hand a first draft to an AI, aren't we essentially killing off human expertise? I mean, can a conversational algorithm really replace the domain mastery of a senior engineer who has spent 20 years making mistakes and learning from them out in the field?
It's the central anxiety of the entire AI revolution. And the source addresses this head-on by examining what happens when AI is used to bridge those functional silos. We had to look at how different departments think.
Let's talk about these silos, or what the research brilliantly terms thought worlds.
Thought worlds, yeah.
Anyone who has worked in a large corporation knows exactly what a thought world is. R&D lives in one universe. They care about the laws of physics, material stress tests, technical feasibility.
They want the perfect products.
They want to build the most indestructible thing possible. Meanwhile, the commercial side lives in an entirely different universe. They care about market viability, customer acquisition costs, competitive positioning, and launch timelines.
And historically, these two thought worlds don't even speak the same corporate language. The friction between them is legendary.
Oh, the turf wars.
Oh, yeah. But the P&G study revealed that AI forces an incredible, almost magical boundary-spanning effect.
Boundary span.
Right. When the highly technical R&D specialists used AI, they suddenly started generating product concepts that included highly sophisticated go-to-market strategies, supply chain analyses, and customer value propositions.
Business elements they typically ignore entirely or just toss over the fence to the marketing department.
Exactly. And it flowed the other way, too. The commercial professionals, the marketers, and salespeople started proposing technically sound manufacturing architectures and material science workarounds.
Because the AI was filling in their gaps.
Yes, the AI acted as a universal translator. It pulled from its vast training data to inject commercial reasoning into the engineer's isolated workflow and rigorous engineering principles into the marketer's isolated workflow.
So it's breaking down the walls.
This results in a profound democratization of expertise. The data consistently shows that the performance benefits of AI heavily concentrate on the least experienced workers.
Or workers who are operating completely outside their core domain.
Right. It dramatically raises the floor of baseline capability across the entire organization.
To really understand how this changes the day-to-day reality of work, we have to look at the mechanics of the case studies highlighted in the text. Take the Mayo Clinic.
Oh, this is a great example.
They are world-renowned for their multidisciplinary tumor boards. If you have a complex cancer case, they don't just assign you one doctor. They bring together an oncologist, a surgeon, a radiologist, and a pathologist in a single room to debate your case and formulate a bespoke treatment plan.
Which is incredibly resource intensive.
Historically, the first 20 minutes of that meeting is just bringing everyone up to speed on the absolute basics of each other's disciplines.
Exactly. The surgeon has to explain the physiological limitations of a specific incision to the radiologist. The radiologist has to explain the nuances of a scan artifact to the oncologist.
It's all translation work.
But now, they are using generative AI for rigorous prep work before anyone even steps foot in the room. A radiologist will use the AI to actively explore the surgical constraints of a specific tumor location. They will prompt the AI to explain the latest, most experimental surgical techniques for that specific anatomy. By the time they enter the tumor board, the radiologist already understands the surgeon's thought world.
And the surgeon is querying the AI about the metabolic pathways of the newest oncology drugs before the meeting. By elevating everyone's baseline knowledge of the other disciplines before they even sit down, the actual human-to-human interaction is completely transformed.
They don't waste precious time explaining introductory concepts to each other.
They skip straight to the highly complex, ambiguous, life-or-death clinical judgments. The AI isn't making the diagnosis.
No, absolutely not.
The AI is making the human conversation infinitely richer.
We see the exact same mechanism at Siemens Energy. Mechanical engineers are designing these massive, incredibly complex industrial turbines.
Huge pieces of machinery.
Usually they design the physical component, throw it over the wall to the commercial team, and wait weeks for a commercial viability analysis.
I hope it doesn't get rejected.
Right. Now, those engineers are using AI to run preliminary commercial, supply chain, and long-term maintenance analyses on the components while they're still drafting them.
That's a game changer.
By the time they bring their design to the specialized commercial reviewers, the proposal is highly refined and already accounts for market realities. It is cutting early-stage concept time by 30%.
Or consider the financial sector. The text highlights a scenario at JPMorgan Chase. Picture a relationship manager sitting in a regional office in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
They are working with a mid-market manufacturing client who needs a complex, structured finance proposal. Historically, that Austin manager would have to call a highly specialized elite hub in New York, get placed in a long queue, and wait weeks for the New York analysts to build the structural models.
It creates a massive bottleneck.
A huge one. Now, that manager in Austin uses AI to build a highly sophisticated first draft of the structured finance proposal themselves. They can query the AI on complex regulatory frameworks, historical deal structures, and risk models.
They do the heavy lifting locally.
The time from initial client inquiry to submitting the deal to the credit committee dropped by 25%.
Which is massive in finance.
But wait, let me stop you there, because if I'm a listener, warning bells are going off right now.
Well, I'm sure they are.
If a regional manager in Austin can suddenly do the job of a senior structured finance expert in New York, or if a junior consultant at Accenture can suddenly fake their way through a healthcare project by asking an AI to explain Medicare billing codes, doesn't that fundamentally commoditize deep knowledge?
That is the fear, yes.
I mean, why would a company ever pay a premium for a senior expert if a junior employee and an algorithm can get 90% of the way there for a fraction of the cost?
It is the most critical question facing the modern workforce. And the source material draws a very careful, incredibly important distinction here between functional expertise and domain expertise.
Break that down for us.
Generative AI is absolutely brilliant at providing functional expertise. Functional expertise is the what and the how. It's the standard operating procedures, the established frameworks, the structural rules of Medicare, the mathematical formulas for a finance deal.
It is the codified textbook knowledge of a profession.
Exactly. It's the recipe.
Yes, the recipe. The AI gives you the perfect recipe.
But humans still entirely own the domain expertise. Domain expertise is the deep, tacit, heavily contextual judgment that a chef develops after 20 years in a kitchen.
You can't put that in a prompt.
No, you can't. It is the gut feeling developed from seeing hundreds of deals fall apart at the last minute. It's the ability to navigate the unspoken, delicate political dynamics of a client organization.
Right, an AI cannot read the room.
An AI does not understand that the CEO is secretly terrified of the CFO. Notice that in the JP Morgan and Siemens examples, the organizations maintain their rigorous final exit review protocols.
Ah, so the senior person is still involved?
The senior New York banker still has to review and approve the Austin manager's proposal.
The AI just drastically accelerates the creation of the first draft. The human expert is no longer a bottleneck for generating the work. They become the ultimate, highly leveraged arbiter for evaluating the work.
Exactly. But this shift in how work is produced brings us to an entirely different dimension of the AI revolution, one that is rarely discussed, but deeply impactful, which is the psychological reality of the worker.
This is fascinating because historically, whenever a company introduces a massive new wave of workplace automation, whether it was the introduction of desktop computers, complex ERP systems in the 90s, or even the shift to ubiquitous Slack and Teams channels, it almost universally stresses everyone out.
Exhausting.
It's a new system to learn, a new way for management to track your metrics, a new source of continuous interruption. It causes severe anxiety.
Researchers actually have a term for this. They call it technostress.
Technostress.
But the emotional architecture of generative AI collaboration completely reverses that historical trend. The data indicates that Gen AI actually improves emotional well-being at work.
The numbers from the P&G study on this are remarkable. To translate the data into real human impact, the individuals working with AI didn't just produce better, faster work. They were literally leaving the office feeling significantly more energized.
They felt better.
The study tracked a massive, undeniably noticeable spike in positive emotions: excitement, engagement, a sense of flow, and simultaneously they tracked a steep drop in negative emotions, specifically anxiety, frustration, and the feeling of being overwhelmed.
This emotional shift is corroborated by a Deloitte case study featured in the text, too. Consultants who actively integrated AI into their workflows reported 12% higher job satisfaction and significantly lower rates of burnout.
Why, though?
The key finding was that the AI specifically cured what they identified as the blank page problem.
Oh, the blank page problem. Every single person listening knows exactly what that is. It is staring at a blinking cursor on a blank document at 4:00 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh, the worst feeling.
Knowing you owe your boss a comprehensive strategy memo by Monday morning, it is deeply, viscerally anxiety-inducing.
It is terrifying, especially for junior employees who suffer from imposter syndrome and are paralyzed by the fear of appearing uninformed to their highly experienced peers.
Right. They don't want to look dumb.
Exactly. The AI acts as an emotional buffer. It immediately shatters the blank page. It gives them a starting point, a rough outline, a list of ideas to react to. It dramatically reduces the sheer psychological weight of isolated, independent work.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Why does interacting with a piece of software make us feel less lonely? I mean, why does it alleviate the emotional burden of work?
The source unpacks the psychology behind this by looking back at foundational research conducted by NASA and Moon in the year 2000.
Year 2000, that was ages ago.
Long before modern large language models existed, their research proved a concept called computers as social actors. Essentially, human brains are evolutionarily hardwired to treat a conversational, natural language interface as a genuine social interaction.
Meaning, even though our logical brain explicitly knows we are typing into a browser window connected to a massive cold server farm somewhere in Virginia,
Yeah.
our primate brain interprets the back-and-forth dialogue as a conversation with an actual peer.
That's the mechanism right there. Engaging in an iterative, responsive dialogue triggers our deeply evolved social cognitive systems. The AI provides a genuine psychological sense of connection.
Which goes back to that third pillar of teamwork we talked about.
Exactly. It mimics that promotive interaction. You get the emotional support, the sounding board, and the momentum of having a teammate, entirely without the excruciating coordination costs of actually dealing with another human being's schedule or ego.
I love comparing it to having a completely non-judgmental brainstorming buddy sitting next to you at 2 a.m.
That's a great way to put it.
It's a colleague you can pitch your absolute dumbest, most half-baked, potentially embarrassing ideas to without any fear whatsoever of looking foolish or damaging your professional reputation.
The AI won't judge you.
Because you aren't afraid to be wrong with the AI, you iterate much faster, you explore weirder concepts, and you eventually arrive at far more innovative final ideas. It entirely removes the ego threat from the generative process.
That absence of interpersonal friction and judgment in the early stages of ideation is incredibly liberating for knowledge workers.
Yeah.
But it presents a massive new challenge for leadership.
Oh, how so?
If AI can fulfill the performance pillar by doing better work, the expertise pillar by bridging functional silos, and the emotional pillar by providing psychological support, what on earth do we need traditional human teams for?
Exactly. This requires a total reconfiguration of the workplace. If I am a manager and my individual contributors are now regularly functioning with the output and breadth of two-person cross-functional teams, my entire operational playbook is totally obsolete.
The data strongly points to a new reality of diminishing returns regarding team size. We established that an AI-augmented individual performs about as well as an AI-augmented two-person team. But the study went further. It showed that a three-participant setup, so 2 humans and 1 AI, yielded vastly smaller additional benefits.
Wait, really?
Yes, the communication overhead and the coordination costs of managing the 2 humans started to drag down the immense efficiency gains provided by the AI.
So the humans were basically getting in each other's way.
Essentially, across the board, smaller configurations, often just a single human heavily augmented by AI, are increasingly becoming the optimal default structure for generative work.
Bain and Company provides a perfect real-world example of this structural shift in action. They analyze their continuous analytical work streams, the heavy, complex, data-crunching strategy work that management consultants do.
Classic consulting work.
Previously, they would assign teams of 2 or 3 junior consultants to these specific streams, constantly meeting, checking each other's math, and dividing the labor. Now they are shifting entirely to single individual consultants heavily augmented by generative AI.
And the result of that structural shift,
A 40 to 50% boost in overall analytical throughput.
that's massive.
And the human consultants only physically convene for the project kickoff, major strategic milestones, and the final synthesis presentation. They completely stripped out all the continuous daily coordination meetings and the endless alignment calls.
The individual generates with the AI, and the team only gathers to synthesize.
Exactly.
We are also seeing this hybrid model flatten traditional corporate hierarchies. The text mentions a fascinating case study on distributed leadership at Spotify.
Oh, I read about this.
They are actively giving junior product managers significantly expanded autonomy to approve feature specifications that previously strictly required senior executive sign-off.
Which is a big leap of trust.
It is. The catch is that the junior PM must thoroughly document their AI-assisted analysis and risk modeling. The AI is providing the structural rigor and the functional expertise that a senior manager used to provide during a review, thereby freeing up the senior leader's time for higher-level strategic thinking.
But, and this is a massive, but perhaps the most important pivot point of this entire deep dive, there is a critical asymmetry at play here.
We have to talk about the flaw.
We have spent the last 30 minutes singing the praises of AI, but the researchers discovered a massive, glaring flaw in how AI functions in a collaborative dynamic.
It is a vital limitation.
Mm.
While generative AI is unparalleled at generating ideas, broadening perspectives, and curing the blank page problem, it is remarkably, fundamentally bad at evaluation.
The numbers on this are stark and really sobering. In the experiment, when tasked with looking at a diverse portfolio of generated ideas and selecting the absolute highest quality one to move forward with, traditional human teams working entirely without AI achieved a 50% accuracy rate in picking the winner.
Okay, 50%.
Individuals who were enabled with AI, they only achieved a 37% accuracy rate.
Wow, it went down.
The AI actually made the humans significantly worse at evaluating quality and picking the winning concept.
This raises an essential question. Why does a system so brilliant at creating ideas fail so profoundly at judging them?
It's weird, right?
It comes down to the core architecture of how these large language models are designed and trained. They rely heavily on reinforcement learning from human feedback.
RLHF.
Yes. They are fundamentally optimized to be helpful, agreeable, and affirming. They are the ultimate corporate yes men.
It just wants a 5-star rating. If you propose a mediocre idea, the AI isn't going to tell you it's mediocre. It will validate it, build a sophisticated framework around it, and enthusiastically tell you why it's a great idea.
Precisely. The AI lacks the capacity for genuine, contextual, critical pushback. It does not understand risk in a human sense. Human teams, on the other hand, naturally introduce healthy friction. They bring creative tension.
We argue.
We argue. A human colleague understands the specific, unspoken risk tolerance of their company's CEO. A human understands the cultural context and the emotional resonance of a market in a way that an algorithm fundamentally cannot.
I think we can summarize this new paradigm beautifully for you. AI is the ultimate brainstorming machine, but humans are the ultimate critics. You generate alone with the machine, but you must evaluate together with the tribe.
That hybrid, generate alone, evaluate together model is exactly what the most innovative companies are adopting right now. Look at IDE, the legendary design firm.
They're famous for their process.
The source details a highly complex healthcare facility project they recently executed. They utilized generative AI to produce over 200 initial facility design concepts in just 2 to 3 days.
Which is a generative explosion. To get 200 distinct visualized concepts from a human team would normally take weeks of dedicated brainstorming and sketching.
It is an incredible widening of the creative funnel. But IDEO deliberately and strictly did not use the AI to select the winning design.
They knew better.
They reserved the evaluation and selection process entirely for a diverse, cross-functional human team. The humans brought the friction. They applied highly complex, deeply human rubrics of desirability. Like, do sick patients actually want to be in this space?
Right.
Viability. Does the specific hospital system have the budget to maintain this? And cultural fit.
Because an AI might design a hospital floor plan that is mathematically perfect for maximizing nurse walking efficiency, but feels incredibly sterile, cold, and terrifying to a pediatric patient. Only a human team brings that empathetic, contextual evaluation to the table.
Exactly. You leverage the AI to explore the widest possibility space so you don't prematurely converge on a safe, boring idea. But you absolutely rely on human friction, debate, and empathy to narrow that massive funnel down to the singular right idea.
But if we follow this logic to its conclusion, if the future of knowledge work is spending our days generating alone in our home offices with our non-judgmental AI buddies and only occasionally coming together via Zoom to critique, argue, and evaluate the results, how do we keep the workplace from devolving into a dystopian, isolated factory?
That's a dark thought.
Evaluating and criticizing is emotionally taxing work. If that's all we do together, where's the joy?
It is arguably the most urgent leadership challenge of the next decade. The text is incredibly explicit on this point. Organizations must intentionally, aggressively preserve the human connections that create meaning at work.
It won't just happen on its own anymore.
No. If leaders just blindly chase the short-term productivity metrics and isolate their workers, they won't fully realize the devastating loss of the corporate social fabric until it's too late. Burnout spikes, and their top talent leaves.
Salesforce is doing something truly interesting to combat this isolation. They are implementing explicit, protected human connection time blocks across their teams.
I like that.
And these blocks are strictly unmediated by AI. No laptops, no collaborative algorithms, no optimization, just humans in a room or on a walk, building trust, sharing informal knowledge, and maintaining relationships.
Because you need a massive reserve of social capital in the bank for when you have to do that hard, contentious evaluative work later.
Right. If you don't trust the person criticizing your idea, the hybrid model collapses.
Patagonia took a deeply cultural approach to this exact problem. They framed their entire corporate AI adoption strategy around their core mission, rather than around efficiency.
Oh, that's smart.
They purposefully didn't pitch AI to their employees as a tool to cut costs or squeeze out more productivity. They pitched it as a mechanism to free up human time from soul-crushing routine tasks, specifically so employees could focus intensely on the company's core environmental activism.
They use the technology to protect and elevate the meaning of the work itself.
Exactly.
That is brilliant change management. But beyond preserving the cultural meaning of work, there is an equally critical issue of skill preservation.
Right.
We can't just buy an enterprise AI license, set it up, and walk away expecting our teams to thrive.
Treating generative AI as a one-and-done software implementation, like, installing a new version of a word processor or a payroll system, is a guaranteed path to organizational failure.
It's too dynamic for that.
The underlying technology evolves monthly, sometimes weekly. What organizations require is what the research terms adaptive governance.
Which practically looks like continuous learning and testing mechanisms. Microsoft, for instance, conducts rigorous quarterly AI capability assessments to figure out what the newest models can actually do and where they hallucinate.
You have to keep testing it.
Google has structured experimentation programs where human teams essentially beta test new AI workflows in a safe environment before rolling them out. IBM established dedicated AI ethics and efficacy review boards.
And crucially, you need peer-based communities of practice. Accenture built an internal AI community that rapidly grew to 15,000 members.
15,000.
Yeah, they don't just share prompt libraries. They actively troubleshoot failure modes, they share their mistakes, and they teach each other how to navigate the limitations of the tool. Because the absolute greatest danger here, if governance fails, is a phenomenon known as skill fade.
Skill fade. Let's dig into that.
Skill fade is the very real concept that if human workers consistently offload too much of their cognitive heavy lifting to an AI over a period of years, they will slowly lose their own cognitive edge.
They just forget how to do it.
They will forget how to do the fundamental, foundational analysis themselves.
It's GPS dependency. We all know people, and let's be honest, we might be these people, who cannot navigate their own hometowns anymore without looking at the blue dot on their phone.
Guilty.
They have completely lost their internal spatial mapping. If the satellite goes down or their battery dies, they are hopelessly lost. Organizations have to ensure their employees don't lose their professional sense of direction. You can absolutely use the AI to drive the car, but you must fundamentally know how to read the map.
That is exactly the risk. And mitigating it requires deliberate structural safeguards.
Yeah.
Leaders have to ensure that junior employees still intimately learn the underlying mechanics of their profession, even as the AI takes over the heavy lifting of generating the actual output.
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today. Let's pull all these threads together into a cohesive picture of the modern workplace. We've seen that generative AI is no longer just a tool. It is a cybernetic teammate.
True partner.
It matches the performance output of a traditional two-person team. It completely dissolves the historical silo walls between technical R&D and commercial strategy. And remarkably, it actually makes us feel less anxious, less overwhelmed, and more supported at work by entirely curing the dreaded blank page problem.
And because of those capabilities, it forces a total redesign of how workflows are structured, moving us rapidly toward a hybrid model where individuals generate alone with AI to achieve massive breadth, but diverse cross-functional human teams convene to evaluate, debate, and synthesize.
So what does this all mean for you? Whether you are a mid-level manager trying to hit your quarterly targets, an individual contributor looking to future-proof your career, or a CEO designing a new organizational chart, the takeaway is incredibly clear. The most successful professionals and companies of the next decade will not be the ones who aggressively, stubbornly reject AI out of pride.
No, they'll be left behind.
But they also won't be the ones who lazily and blindly automate every single cognitive task.
The clear winners will be those who masterfully and strategically divide the labor. They will deploy AI for generative breadth, to explore widely, to work with blistering speed, and to transcend their own functional limitations. But they will fiercely protect and rely on human networks, human friction, and human empathy for evaluative depth.
It is entirely about knowing exactly when to utilize the machine and exactly when to lean on the tribe. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. It's something the source material hints at, but leaves entirely unresolved as a lingering paradox for all of us to mull over.
It is the profound paradox of future expertise.
Exactly. We've established today that AI fundamentally democratizes expertise. It raises the floor for junior employees, allowing a 24-year-old analyst to instantly draw on the vast aggregated training data of thousands of past human experts to produce incredibly high-level work. But if junior employees bypass the traditional agonizing struggle of learning, if they no longer have to grind through the slow, painful process of building terrible initial drafts from scratch, failing miserably, being critiqued by a mentor, and trying again simply because the AI does it perfectly for them.
How will the next generation of true, deep human experts actually develop? Deep, tacit knowledge, that invaluable, irreplaceable gut instinct we talked about, is forged entirely in the fire of that very struggle.
Right. If the humans stop struggling, they stop developing deep domain expertise. And if humans stop developing deep domain expertise, what exactly will the future AI models learn from? Are we right now just coasting on the exhaust fumes of legacy human expertise? It is something to seriously think about the next time you ask a chatbot to write your first draft for you. Are you saving time today at the cost of your own expertise tomorrow?
We might be building a phenomenally fast, brilliant motorboat, but we have to ensure we don't fundamentally forget how to swim.
A perfect way to bring it full circle. We started this hour by talking about that massive, heavy orchestra of traditional teamwork. We don't have to pay that excruciating coordination tax anymore. We have a powerful new instrument, but we still have to be the ones composing the music. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the tools you use, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.